So we've established there's a bunch of benefits to actually getting this material back out in the world, but there's also some hoops to jump through to be allowed to do that. So when we're talking about putting material back out in the world, there's different things we could be talking about. We could be talking about whole digestate that's just coming straight out of a digester, no dewatering. We can talk about digestate cake. So when I say cake, I mean dewatered digestate. So it's a little bit drier. We can talk about compost or composted digestate. We can talk about digester effluent. So if we've done dewatering, you can actually put that water on as a soil improver. That's called liquid soil amendment, or LSA. We could also maybe have treated some of our digestate with a thermal or chemical rather than a compost process. And there's a few different ones out there. So there's a whole bunch of different types of stuff that could be going out. And then there's a few different ways that we can allow that through different regulatory systems. And we'll go through each of them. One is NASM, non-agricultural source material. One is as a Canadian Food Inspection Agency fertilizer. One is through Ontario's Compost Regulation, and one is through our environmental compliance approvals. These are all just different ways of doing the same thing, but they all work differently and operate under different legislation. So our NASM is regulated through the Ontario Nutrient Management Act. It's managed by the Ministry of Agricultural, Food and Rural Affairs. And the reason it's called non-agricultural source material is there's rules around farms using manure and vegetable waste back on their farms. If you're coming from off the farm, now you're not non-agricultural source material. So where they trust some of the material from on-farm, they don't trust the non-agricultural stuff as much. So under the NASM regulations, there's tests that need to be done for metals, foreign objects, pathogens, odor, organic material content, alkalinity, and nutrients that all needs to be analyzed before it goes on to the land. And there needs to be a plan for applying it to the land and a permit to be able to do that. Under NASM, material is classified as a waste until it gets to the farm. And there's different hauling, storage, and disposal regulations for waste versus non-waste under the Ontario EPA. So while this does let you put it on the land, you're a bit restricted in how you can do that because you need this NASM application plan and you need to transport it as a waste. So NASM is one way, it's specific to Ontario. Next one is Canada Food Inspection Agency certified fertilizer. So this is federal. It's administered through the Canada Food Inspection Agency through the Fertilizers Act. And compared to NASM, CFIA fertilizer has a higher bar to meet. It looks at a lot of the same things, the pathogens and nutrient content, blah, blah, blah. But it has a higher standard, and when you reach it, you're issued a fertilizer label, and there's an example on the right of the screen here, which has a guaranteed analysis for what's actually in that material. And the benefit of doing a CFIA fertilizer is once you prove it meets those criteria on the label, now it's not a waste. Now it's a fertilizer, and it doesn't have those waste regulations pertaining to when it's moved around. So it's less restricted if you're able to achieve this CFIA fertilizer designation. It's just a little tougher to get this designation, but this is kind of the gold standard for permitting. This is the easiest thing to put on, but maybe the hardest thing to get. In Ontario, we also have what's called the Ontario Compost Quality Standards, and these are referenced by the Ontario EPA and the Nutrient Management Act. Now, the compost quality standards don't automatically give you permission to apply the material, but they do set forward what Ontario expects from its compost and make it easier to achieve one of the other designations. And through the compost quality standards, there are different categories of compost based on the levels of pathogens and contaminants in them. So there's category A and AA, which are no longer a waste and don't come with restrictions for using it. Category B is a lower quality, it's still called a waste, and it comes with some restrictions for how it's used. And there's other compost quality standards that people reference. There's one published by the Canadian Council of Ministers of the Environment. There's one published by BNQ in Quebec. The standards alone don't let you permit the compost. They just tell you how you stack up against a benchmark that exists. A third method of permitting that can be used for non-agricultural purposes is getting an ECA for an organic soil conditioner. Now, this would be done if you're interested in using your material for something like mine reclamation or forest reclamation, where it wouldn't have as strict requirements as NASM and CFIA do that are focused on growing food in them. And because it's an ECA, the requirements will be specific to the application site. And then the last way that you can do this is through Ontario's Compost Regulation. Now, this regulation is only for leaf and yard waste compost, and it sets out the rules for how you operate your compost system and how you test your compost at the end to make sure it's of good quality. And similar to the Ontario Compost Quality Guidelines, there's different classes mentioned in this regulation. So regular compost is like good compost that you can use anywhere. It's no longer a waste and it has unrestricted use. And then there's a lower class called controlled compost, and it's still designated a waste, but there's rules for how you can apply it. It just has setbacks from waterways and things like that.